Go.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Rosa and I am a recovering alcoholic and addict. Grateful each day not being at the psych ward. That's a good day. Jay, thank you so much for offering me to show up and do service, showing up for my recovery. I'm honored to know you and I'm honored to be walking this path with you, Jay. And it's so great to see new people and people from all over. And you truly are my family. You are my recovery family. I'm closer to many of you in these rooms than I am to my actual family. Because my actual family, as much as they love me, they will never ever understand this disease. They cannot understand how somebody like me, with the upbringing that I had, the potential that I had, with the support that I had, and that I ended up where I ended up. There is no logical explanation for that. And to them, they already know that I was very ill, and I now know and have learned that I was very, very ill. And for that, I have compassion, and for that, I can forgive myself because my disease made most of my decisions from a very, very young age. I am 21 years sober. God willing, I'll have 22 years on June 18th. I'm a poly-addicted alcoholic. My alcohol comes in every form. Most things I do alcoholically, as in I have to check the box if what I'm doing is within my disease, if I'm doing it alcoholically or if I'm doing it in a healthy way. This disease being the mental obsession and the spiritual malady and the physical allergy, I can tell you that the mental obsession can be constructive. It doesn't have to be destructive. If we can put it towards a pathway or focusing on something that can actually help us reach our goals and achieve things, that is great. But as soon as that becomes, when that starts overriding my self-care and overriding my relationships and my responsibilities, then it goes into that realm of me being in my disease. And that has kind of been the lens that I've had to look at myself in my recovery. Forgive me, I'm coming out of a little bit of a throat thing. But I was born and raised on the south coast of Iceland, on a small island called Westman Islands. It's an absolutely beautiful place, one of the most beautiful places in the world, I would argue, even though I'm biased. But it's a small island. My mother was the first Asian Thai immigrant to ever move to Iceland. And just to talk a little bit about how spirituality can be reflected in other people's lives, not necessarily through a 12-step program, even though we come into AA and what we get here is a spiritual program with a spiritual solution where no human power can help us. But my mom grew up in Buddhism. And this is not a religious program, but I'm just sharing you this story, sharing with you this story because I think it's pretty fascinating. And in Thailand, they really, really believe in the Buddha monks and prophecies and such. And actually, the 12 steps probably come closest to Buddhism, if anything, because it's a self-improvement program, and it is about seeking a higher wisdom and growing your higher self, right? So my mom was predicted at 7 years old that she would actually meet a Westerner and that would be her life partner. So whether we believe it or not, and I'm not here to sell this to you, but you know, but your belief system is just what you believe. Temples, churches, whatever it is, are just houses. These are just houses. It has to do with what you believe in your heart. So whether it came true or not, or whether she manifested it, or whether just whatever happened, she actually waited till she met my father. And she's talked about this in the press. And she said, there he is when he walked into the travel agency where she was helping her friend out that day. And she knew in her gut that was the man. And my father and her went out to dinner with his friend and her friend. And she was really looking at him like this was her life partner. And they stayed in touch by letters in those days. And then my father was fascinated with her. He's from the north of Iceland, where an apple at Christmas was a treat. You know, when you were lucky to get horses to go to school with snow up to your knees, sometimes with pitch black, mornings and horrible weather. Winters are indescribable in Iceland. It really toughens you up. And he meets this woman in Thailand who really, thinks that he's destined for her. And it was such an incredible combination. So her spirituality really is why I'm here, because you know that is just what I wanted to share with you. So I'm the first Thai Icelandic person in Iceland, and my mother and I were the only people of color on that island, really. So being the hypersensitive child that I am, so my story starts there. And even though I have, loving parents who did their best, surely not perfect, and all of us come from either very dysfunctional families or very functional families, but none of us come from perfect families. So we always say in Iceland, everybody has their demon to drag. So I grow up there, and the kids, they're very good at not making me. I learned this in Al-Anon anyway. Nobody can make you anything. But I took very, very took it to heart that I was different, and the kids didn't know how to really talk about it. So I became very self-conscious about my ethnicity growing up where I grew up, and on top of that, in my childhood, my neighbor across the driveway started molesting me at age 4. So, and that became a secret, and I carried that. I carried that on my shoulders, and it took me a long time to forgive my family for not seeing the change in me because of that molestation. So this is who I became before I ever picked up a drink. And I share this simply because so many things have happened to so many of us. But I'm not an alcoholic because these things happened to me, because I've met people who did not destroy their lives with drugs and alcohol. So I can't sit here and say I am an alcoholic and an addict because that happened. But I am an alcoholic and an addict with those traumas of bullying and molestation. So that's what I bring to the table. And if I, as a sober person, do not deal with these traumas in my life, this is gonna color everything in my life as a sober person. It's going to define my intimate relationships, my work relationship. It's going to define everything in my life. So I'm here to tell you that life has really forced me to be aware of the things that I need to heal from. Physical sobriety is merely an opportunity to heal. That is what I truly, truly believe in for each and every one of us, because we all bring whatever it is to the table. And I see people in and out because they are not reckoning the deeper issues and other issues in other areas as we get sober. My friend Joe in New York, he couldn't stay away from the bars, for example. He kept going sober, hanging around the bars and chasing the girls at the bars. And that ended up killing him. And he posted on Facebook, I'm taking 16 Vicodin. Someone's picking him up for rehab. And he's like, good night. I don't think he meant to kill himself, but some breakup, some stupid situation with a girl. So I'm just saying, it's like these things are whatever is underlying in our unhealthy needs when we get sober. This is the stuff that I want to talk about, because that's the stuff that brings us out. And it is by the grace of God that I did not die from my behaviors years into my sobriety when I got sober. Because of my particular trauma, I did not know how to even draw a breath without obsessing or laying the net or focusing or seducing or whatever it was that I was doing. I did not know how to walk in this world without objectifying myself or needing to be objectified. And then when I got what I thought I needed, it wasn't what I needed. It's like satiating hunger with sugar. And I didn't understand why I was so filled with void and constantly in emotional bottoms when I was in my sobriety. I was angry at God. I didn't understand why that sobriety had to be so painful. And so I started abstaining from these behaviors. And that was also painful because abstaining is not recovery. That's just being dry. It's the same as being dry in alcohol and drugs. So the abstinence, I didn't, I just, but you don't know what you don't know. So it's very important to have that forgiveness. And when I look back and I just see that my higher power and me have just been slaying these things one after the other, but it's not pleasant and it's very uncomfortable to grow. But I sit here and I am adamant that I'm not going to live this life unless there can be some sort of relief and I can have, fundamental joys in my life. And everything that drugs and alcohol gave me, I have to be able to experience that sober. I have to. And that is a pact that I make with God every day. And all I have to do is just make myself useful to others and unblock everything that is blocking me from being of service. And that has been my life for 21 years. And it's not been easy at times, but that is how I live my life. I have worked the steps in many, many programs. I am a double winner. I have needed to surrender many times with my addiction. I'm the type of person, I will just perform enemas on myself in an eating disorder alone in my home because I think that's normal, because all of a sudden I need to be pure and eat raw food. And, that's my brain. It's like it will just go from one thing to the next. And I don't need to be doing drugs and alcohol to be doing crazy, crazy things. And it's like we go to hell and we decorate. It's like, even sober, it's like the normalization is so scary to me. The normalization of the behaviors, and only pain and fear is really going to wake me up. I've been so unconscious at times. I've had to be shaken up. Like, what are you doing? Just emotional sobriety is a huge thing, huge thing. And I talk about these things because if you work the steps or in the middle of working the steps, or if you're new and you're just getting acquainted to AA, and inevitably you are going to work the steps because it's a form of insanity to be in a 12-step program without working the 12 steps. That is a form of insanity, in my opinion. So eventually you will work the steps. But I talk about these things because I couldn't have done my fourth step the way I would have done my fourth step 5 years later when I first came in. I just wasn't capable of the kind of honesty. That's why I say you can only do your best at where you're at. You cannot bring perfectionism into this. Perfectionism is a joy killer. It's a joy killer. Needing to control outcomes and control things. Oh, trust me, I'm the queen. Trust me, I am the queen of that. You will not come near me, or I will be abnormally enmeshed with you, and then you will do something and I will push you away and you must die. It's so extreme how I used to function. It's like, it's either just stay away or it's so enmeshed. And so I've had to learn so many lessons in recovery, how to draw healthy boundaries, how to not be a people pleaser, how to not be a control, crazy with control, needing to control outcomes, needing to know what comes down the pike, being very, very uncomfortable with uncertainty. Excuse me. And it's joyless. It's absolutely joyless. And I want to have joy today. I thought that I would never, ever be able to, have relationships, intimate relationships. I put up a facade for so many years, like such a facade, and you cannot keep up that kind of facade. It's like I would not let you see me. I didn't want anyone to see me, the real me, because underneath there was a wounded, self-loathing little girl that I needed to really, start nourishing and cherishing and take under my wing and start healing all those hurts that, I had just pushed her in a dark room and just stay there. And then my disease and the alter ego Rosa took over. So when we get sober and we get the opportunity to heal, that's when That's when the real recovery begins. And I personally have needed a lot of emotional bottoms and claw marks on the things that I've had to let go of, because so many of these things were coping mechanisms for me. And they're coping mechanisms, because at the end of the day, you just don't want to be hurt. You don't want to be hurt. So trusting for many of us is very difficult. If we don't trust any person, like I had to first get an inkling of what it would be to trust the higher power before I could ever trust anybody. My first real intimate friendship was in AA with somebody, and I was years and years and years sober. Shortly after that came my life partner, who is Munli, who's my wife, and we've been together 11 years and married for 8 years. And we've had to work the steps together. She's also in AA, and she has her stuff that she brings to the table. I have my baggage, and there's no destination. There's the fantasy had to be broken of any sort of, whether you're single, it's work if you're sober. And if you're in a relationship, it's work too. It's just not, it's not, I'm sorry to break it to you. It's the rewards are worth it to be able to give and receive love in an intimate relationship. That is rewarding. But for somebody like me, that is absolutely terrifying. It's terrifying. And I'm about to start EMDR therapy. I need to continue to heal, because I am just on the journey. I'm just healing one day at a time. But God has been good. God gives me gifts along the journey. And I'm somebody, I just wouldn't be sober if it wasn't worth it. I just wouldn't be sober. And having, my sponsees, one of them I see who's here. Hi, Jessica. Um, you know, and seeing the recovery in my sponsees and seeing their awakenings and seeing the miracle happen in their lives. And, that's not me. That's just me transferring something over that I've been given. And I've hurt so many people with my disease, my family, mostly myself. I'm that person. It's not a cop out. I am that person that I have hurt the most. Yeah. When I was able to look at how I've abused myself over the years, all my other amends would right size. They right sized after I started seeing the relentless emotional, physical, mental, spiritual abuse that I have perpetrated against myself for decades. Whatever I did to someone else faded in comparison. So that was something I needed before I went out and made amends, to be able to see that, because I had so much anxiety. I didn't know where to start. So for some of us, maybe not everybody, and some people will say, hey, there's a cop out, but for some of us, that is important, because I know, I just met a girl the other day who was stuck on her 9-step. And I said, have you tried to write a forgiveness letter to yourself and list the harms you've done to yourself? And she said, no, I have not. And that is something she hadn't considered, and that wasn't suggested to her. And that helped unblock the other amends, because she saw that whatever she had done to someone else, really what was such a short amount of time of what she had been doing to herself. And that's what I'm trying to say. So this disease is absolutely void of any sort of God, whatever. If God is goodness, if God is love, if God is healing, this disease is devoid of that. It is absolutely godless. It's darkness. It is the absence of it. And is it man-made? I can't tell you that, but I just think it is absolutely godless. And excuse me. And I'm somebody who suffers. My spiritual malady is really, really, really bad. And I need a lot of help in the mornings to be able to just get on a level playing field, because I can go to bed very grateful and be like, I'm grateful for my life, and this is a good day, and I can turn everything over to God. And then in the night, hope just seeps away into the ether. And I wake up completely hopeless. And that has been something that I've struggled with in my recovery for a lot of years. Just mornings. I was not a morning person. And I had a very hard time with mornings. And I don't know how that happens. You go to bed okay, and then you wake up and you're just hopeless. I have to do work in the morning to connect. It's like I just wake up in the mornings and I've just, no matter what is going on in the world, I just feel like everybody's just playing the violin on the Titanic. Like, what's the point? Like, it's like so little effort collectively as humans against so much bad that I get hopeless. And I take it on my shoulders. And that's something I've had to really learn to understand, that I just have to do my part. And God willing, that will have a ripple effect. And that's how we change. That's how we are the good ones in AA. If we have a sincere desire to become better people individually, one day at a time, that truly is the solution. For me, that's how I see the solution for everything. And we are people who are consciously, actively wanting to do that in our lives. And I don't take it for granted, because a lot of us go out, a lot of people pick up. And the spiritual malady is so cunning. It's like I had to learn what clinical depression was and what the spiritual malady is. And the spiritual malady can be like, I don't need meds. I'm functional. I can smile, but I want to be dead. It's cunning. It's crazy. I've been clinically depressed, where I had to be on lithium and depression pills, and my disease caused me bipolarity, and I had to live in psych wards months at a time. I was really, really sick. I can't even tell you how sick I was. Doctors, prestigious doctors in Scandinavia, treated me and like, you're never going to walk without medication. You're gone. That's basically what they were telling me. And but people and many doctors don't understand the power of sobriety. And I'm not saying that I'm not a doctor. I'm just sharing my particular story. My particular story is that alcohol and drugs caused me to become mentally ill. Okay, and that's what happened to me. I didn't have mental disorders to a point where I needed to be medicated before my active progressed addiction. So, but doctors didn't understand that me simply becoming sober and adapting a healthier lifestyle and doing recovery work would slowly start healing me mentally, my mental illness. They couldn't see it because of how ill I had become. So I'm here to tell you that, that was a miracle in front of people's eyes in Iceland, where I'm from, where I got sober, and to myself. Me just praying to God and I'm not somebody who's like, hey, just pray to God and that's going to heal everything. I am very much of a skeptic in many ways. I'm somebody who prefers to, see and believe than anything else. But there is so much power in sobriety, and the shift of perspective and perception. And I believe that it fundamentally rewires our brain. And when we rewire our brain, that affects us physically too. It's powerful. It's not to be dismissed, because I am an entity walking around, not plugged in, with something making my heart beat. And it is entirely not up to me if and when my heart stops beating. And it's absolutely breathtakingly awesome to think about that's how each and every one of us functions. That there is a power behind our heart beating that has nothing to do with anything that we did or can do. And that is enough for me to know that there is a preconceived system that we are born into. It was before us, and it will be, but I think, after us all. And there is relief in that, because I have such needs to control sometimes because of my trauma. It's very scary to trust. Trusting for me feels that it's like a trap door, like what can go wrong. So that's something I've had to really heal and learn to heal. And also I have to tell you that my relationship with my higher power If my higher power was a person, and this is something I had to really, really look at, because for, sober 21 years, and each time there's adversity or I'm scared, I think I'm going to lose what I have or not get what I need, it's always the same story with the fear. Like that's always the foundation of the fear. And again, even though there's no track record of me ever, my worst fears ever coming true, I always viscerally think and feel, but this time it's not going to be okay. I'm out of trumps, I'm out of aces. That's the feeling. And it's so visceral and it's a thing. It is such a thing. And then I started to think to myself, and it was just this, I think it was just last year or this year that I really said to myself, you know what? If your higher power was a friend or a person that has had your back, this whole time, and you keep doubting that friend and accusing them of not loving you, caring for you, or having your back, that is hurtful. That is hurtful to somebody if they were actual person in your life. And and then I thought about God and I'm like, why do I treat God like that? Instead of me just wanting from God, like how am I treating God? And I started turning it around in my head. Like, what am I, instead of being like, I show up for you and, I'm trying to be of service to your kids and nobody's cutting me a check. And I can get like that. Absolutely. Like, I can get there. I am, please don't be fooled. I am not a well person. I can be foul and ill and road raging, and I had to crawl into Al-Anon because my reactions were out of control. I'm the type of person, if I'm not in recovery, I'm not spiritually fit, I'm screaming at the TV, I'm angry out in traffic, I'm mouthing off at somebody at a grocery store. And I've had to take a look at that stuff in my life. Really. That has been a huge issue in my life. And I'm telling you, I've been angry at God, very angry at God, because as a human being, I've tied expectations to things and you know, I've had ulterior motives sometimes, with God. And that's my honesty to you. And I forgive myself also for that because I wasn't really doing it consciously. But as a frail, imperfect human with my little brain and my little heart, that's what has sometimes happened. So I've been angry at God a lot in my sobriety. And until I had to have an awakening with how I was treating God and also looking at the track record of my sobriety and recovery and God being in my life. My wife Moonli tells this story that she was told by her grandmother about the lamplighter in London, where you can always see where he has been lighting the lights in London in the old days. But you might not see where God is now, but you can see where God has been, like the lamplighter, where he has been lighting. And I think that is such a beautiful, beautiful metaphor. I do see where God has been in my life, but it is in the present where I can't always see it. And then instead of turning that dial, Radio Rosa, which is bad news, most of the time if I stay there, it's never going to change to a good channel. It just gets worse, as you scroll the brain. That's what's going to happen. So I started really, really, really with discipline, shifting my, you know, perspective this year, last year and into this year. I'm like, I'm not going to go into that cynical mode with God. I am going to have faith. I am going to step deeper into faith, even when life is not how I want it to be. And even if I go into fear, I am not going to go to that same cynical, angry place anymore. I am going to step deeper into faith and I am going to trust God. Really, when I say that, I hope you hear it from my soul. I am going to trust God now, in spite of it all, in spite of my worst fear, in spite of this discomfort, in spite of this uncertainty, in spite of how things can be, and in spite of people not being how you want them to be, and blah, 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 and things not turning out the way you're planning out, blah, blah, blah. In spite of it all, I am going to trust God even more. There has to be a change. If you have patterns and there is no change, Nothing changes, nothing changes. It's not how are we going to expect anything to change? It starts with me. I have to be willing to do what is needed, because in long-term sobriety, it's like I have to go deeper into these things. And for me, it has been trust. It really has been trust. I want to have an intimate relationship with God too. And maybe that's what has to happen, because, my ability to have intimate relationships, healthy, mind you, healthy intimate relationships with people, because they have not been healthy, a lot of them. And I have goals and dreams. And guess what? The disease has stole my teenage years, annihilated my 20s, and I was still its, pardon my French, its bitch into my 30s. And no more. No more. There's a time you just put your foot down and like, this disease is not going to rob me of any more time. And then when that has become a thing, like you just put your foot down and no more, I'm not going to have this disease rob more time from me. Then it becomes about my unhealthy needs and my fears and my thinking and my other issues. And for me, it's been, I'm powerless over my reactions. I really am. I'm powerless over people, always. I'm powerless over my relationship, always. I'm always powerless over other people, always, all the time. Not sometimes, always. About how you think, how you don't think, what you do, what you don't do, doesn't matter. I have to viscerally concede to my innermost self, like with alcoholism, that I'm powerless over you. And that has also helped me in sponsorship, with everything. It's taken my recovery to another level, because how are you trying to control anybody? Whether you're deeply sick in your Al-Anon disease, trying to control another addict or alcoholics, and guess what? Even that program says, if you have an issue with somebody's drinking or sobriety, not just drinking or sobriety, you're in the right place, they say. And so think about it. You don't necessarily have to be a double winner to adopt that way of life. I am powerless over the world. I am powerless over you and what you're going to do and not do, or whatever it is. Always powerless. Powerless over my family, powerless over my work life, everybody in their whatever. I can only take the next right action for myself. This is something I've had to really, 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 really surrender with in my recovery. Truly. And it has taken my recovery to another level with everybody in my life, people who I sponsor and everything, because you're always powerless. You can only do your best and suggest the best, and then you're powerless of whether what people do or don't do or whatever. And I also have had to grow my self-worth and self-respect. That is something to grapple with the shame that comes with having memories of this disease and what this disease has really made me do. It really made so many of my decisions. Also in my sobriety, there's shame attached to that. And that is something that I've had to really, really grapple with, because I can sit here and I can remember things as bright as daylight. And it is not who I am. And I need to, there's just so much healing that has to take place, because I don't want to be personalizing things that my disease was, pushing me to do or be, acting on the impulses or the instincts of the disease, or trauma acting out too. There's even this thing called trauma arousal. I'm going to go that far to even say things like that, because a lot of us don't even know we have that. And it's not you. And to have to personalize these types of things without understanding what is going on has been it's been so painful. And I've had to learn all of these things to be able to shed the shame and the guilt of the actions that this disease and the situations this disease has brought me into, in sobriety as well. Like I said, a few years into my sobriety, I started performing enemas on myself. There's a visual for you. Because why go to a guy who I have to pay? I'll just do it myself. That's the insanity. That's bulimia out the butt, basically. Active bulimia. Um, and and guess what? When you're doing things in your life, whatever behaviors it is, when you're in it and when it's a solution and when it's something that is working for you, when you're stuffing that in the malady, you are just in hell and you're decorating it, you're normalizing it. And the scary thing is we don't know what it is until we're out of it and we can look back on it and like, wow, I was so unwell. What? That's literally what it is. That's been my recovery. Even last year, 2 years ago, I can see behaviors and like, wow, that's not who I want to be anymore. I want to improve with that. And it's like the Kaizen, the Japanese Kaizen. It's like constant and never-ending improvement. I don't have to be a perfectionist, but I can commit to improvement and even striving for excellence. I am going to go that far to say strive for excellence because I like having standards in my life. I like having standards with my work. I like having standards with what I sign my name to today. And that has been, that has been a result of my recovery and just having more self-worth with time and self-respect. Um, and I wish that for all of us. I mean, I know that each and every one of us can sit here and think, and it's the memories of your lowest points, behaviors, things that came out of our mouths, how we treated other people, or even just memories of where we grew up and how we were treated. And we carry it still. And it's still coloring the way we feel about ourselves or how we form relationships with other people, or even are maybe stuck still in toxic family relations, can't get out of them. We're, you know, hurting ourselves to please others or not wanting to cause conflicts and staying stuck. So that is something that I want to also emphasize is that, again, like I said, I'm with someone for 11 years, but if I'm not spiritually ill, I can be next to the love of my life and be suicidal. So I'm just here to tell you that it has nothing to do with love or somebody loving you. Or this disease is absolutely relentless. It does not care. It wants me out. It wants me dead. It wants me miserable. It does not want me to love me. It does not want me to have love. It doesn't want me to believe that I am loved, let alone by a loving creator of the universe or anything. It just does not want me to have or feel that. It doesn't want me to be happy. It just is dark. And that's what I do know. I do know that. And no more. I am not going to die like that. And I don't want any of you either. Because if you share this disease, if you have this disease, you have this malady. And it doesn't want you to be happy. It wants you to be in pain. It wants you to be angry. It wants you to be stuck. And it wants you to not believe in yourself to be able to get out of it. It loves to be stuck. And that is something that is a huge problem for me. And I've had so many, many conversations with my higher power about this because I know I'm like, please help me heal so I can transcend my life and move forward in my life. Please help me unblock anything that is, not working in my interpersonal relationships, even with people in the rooms. There are things that come up and I want to tell people off and try to control things and stuff. It's like, that's what I'm saying. I'm powerless. I want to send everybody to different programs in AA. I'm at that point, like, oh my God, this one really needs this program. This one really needs. I walk around like that, and I have to be careful. The self-righteousness, the spiritual arrogance, Oh my God, I have to be so careful with that because I'm the type of person I can be like, I know I'm not perfect. I know that I'm sick, but oh my God, you are so psycho. You are so sick. Like that's me. And that feels so right. Like I know that I'm perfect. I have to do work on myself, but oh my God, that guy is absolutely mentally psycho. You know, and that's where I go. So, and I have the right. I'm like, I would never do that. I could never do that. Like, so it's those judgments, those yummy, justified. And, too much of that makes Rosa cray cray, and I will start accumulating these negative situations in my life, and I will start attracting conflict, and I truly believe in a 10 step when it comes to the axiom. It's like you attract what you attract where you are. And like an author said, we don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. And it is so true. I can look at one thing one day and it is this, and then a month later, it is something completely different, even though that thing has not changed. It is I who has changed. So it is really so important. At one point, I find something unacceptable and unforgivable, and I have to find acceptance because I'm going to go absolutely crazy. And I'm in the state of agita, and I'm in the state of judgment, right? And that is, the 12 and 12 talks about we cannot, or the big book, either one. Well, 12 and 12 is written by the same guy anyway. It talks about that we cannot stay in that state. And I know the 12 and 12 talks about we cannot stay in that state of elation or down in the dumps. Either is not, is we can allow ourselves that, and the luxury of resentments. And I didn't take that seriously. It would have been better for me to really take that to heart. I wasn't taking it seriously. I really took it as far as I could take it, like nurturing resentments, nurturing, negative judgments on people, mostly people I don't know personally, mostly out in the world that are not doing what I want them to do. And that's dangerous for an alcoholic. It's very dangerous for an alcoholic. I can't afford that. I don't do, they say, leave that to people who are better equipped to handle those things. Just like, a drink is not going to override the natural order of things from people who are not alcoholics. It's not going to override their sense of responsibility, family, professional responsibilities. But for us, the alcohol overrides all of those things. It starts doing that. The same with those lower powers, like resentments. We don't we don't store that in our bodies. It's like a physical allergy, like normal people. It starts permeating us and ourselves like alcohol does. That's why I can't do it. It's not just don't do it because it's bad for you and you're an alcoholic. No, it's because it really becomes like this thing that multiplies in your body. It takes over your soul and your well-being. And it's a slippery slope. It can cause accidents when you're driving. It can cause you to say things and lose jobs and all kinds of things. It can really, start making you lose things the way alcoholism does. So it is so important for me to be emotionally sober, to practice emotional sobriety, because that's what recovery starts becoming. Thank you, Jay. I see that. Thank you. Um, so it is very much like Nike, just do it. It's an action program, just do it. Don't think about it. Don't think your way into right action. Act your way into right thinking. As a former clinically depressed person, I remember sitting and waiting for the spirit to come over me to do things. And I'm going to be like the skeleton on the bench, just like, I waited forever. It's like the spirit is not going to come over me to do things most of the time. A lot of the times, it's just do it. Just do it. Don't do it. Don't wait till you want to do it. Don't wait till you're in the mood to do it. Don't wait until you feel like it. Just do it. And that's really, really, really what it is. That's what they mean with this being an action program. If you're sitting on step work, if you're sitting on this, if you are lazy and you know you should take that walk, you know you should take that self-esteeming action, You know you should be calling somebody up. You know you should. Don't think about it. Don't wait. Just do it. If something's hanging over you, or an email you have to make, or a amends you have to, just do it. Because it's crazy. Has there ever been a time where you've been good to yourself, done something that's good for you that you regret it? Really? If you're honestly, like, have you ever regretted it? Like, not never. So it's like, I have to really, really not think too much. It's just not a thinking program. My life is just not a thinking place. It's action place. And then I get still. I try to meditate. And guess what I do in my meditation? Because I'm an anxious person. Like generally, I'm a pretty anxious person. It doesn't come natural to me to just sit down and be calm and start meditating. Sometimes I sit with my eyes open. I need to sit with my eyes open and just get present with my eyes open where I'm at. Start like I'm safe, I'm okay. So meditation often starts with my eyes open. And then when I start feeling the same way, when my eyes are open and closed, then I'm like, okay. And I have to start assessing, what is my level of acceptance? This is what I often talk about. Because what blocks me often with meditation, I come to the meditation, I am not in acceptance, not with myself, nor with the world. Okay. So I have to start. What is my level of acceptance? I am not in acceptance of myself. I've been judging myself. I've been judging my body. I've been judging, oh, you're lazy, you're doing that, just criticizing myself. So I've not been in acceptance. So I have to catch these things like, whoa, okay. And then I hate the world. I hate people. I hate humanity. Why doesn't God just kill us all? Like, why is God keeping us alive? And I start going into these crazy, crazy spiritual existential thinking. Be thankful I'm not God, okay? That's why you're here. Because it's so intense for me. So I have to be like, really, really get into that acceptance. Like I accept myself and I accept the world exactly the way it is. And I accept my life exactly where it is today. And guess what? So many of us, and this is what I come across in AA so much, people are not happy. They get sober and they're just not happy with their life. They start seeing the wreckage. They start seeing how much alcoholism is stolen from them, all the missed opportunities, career, money, all that stuff. And we hate it. We hate our lives. We hate it. So we have to be very, very honest about that and come to the meditation and come to God and say, I hate my life and I hate myself and I hate this, blah, blah, blah. And then you usually start crying and just, I hate everything and that's the kind of relationship we have to have. We can't be carrying that around and just pretend. If you hate your life, you hate your life. It's okay, but bring it to God. You can't live like that. Thank you, Jeff. I feel very passionate about that because this has been the stuff that I have had to really grapple with. This is the real stuff. And any one of us can have those moments. And to be able to cultivate that kind of acceptance is so hard. But no one said it was supposed to be easy. But guess what? Here I am. And I couldn't have made my life up even if I tried. So everything good in my life is because I'm sober and I've been committed to this recovery process. I live by these principles of the 12 steps and the traditions. I live by these principles. They're embedded in my life. Sometimes I hate God, sometimes I love God, but I am always with God, no matter what. For me, it's not an option like, oh, you should try to have a higher. No, there has to be a God. Otherwise, there is just no chance for someone like me. I used to annihilate. I'm not a social drinker. So there has to be a God. Has to. Okay? So that's what I'm saying. I love you all so much. Please know if I'm here and I'm ranting to you all this madness and I am relatively happy in my life most of the time, then you certainly can be too. And I love you. I love our program. And thank you all. Thank you all for letting me share.
Yay. Thank you so much. And